ever noticed that two women can both dress in black, shop from the same stores, love the same music, and yet look completely different? That's because style really isn't about clothing. Style is identity made visible. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when exploring alternative fashion is assuming there's a single goth look. In reality, a specific aesthetic archetype, and an archetype is simply a recurring visual story. It's the character you become when your inner world is expressed through clothing, accessories, fragrance, makeup, and atmosphere. Today, we're going to explore several common soft goth archetypes and help you recognize which one feels the most like home. The first archetype is the dark romantic. The dark romantic is drawn to beauty, emotion, and elegance. She loves lace, velvet, flowing fabrics, roses, cameos, antique-inspired jewelry, and rich textures. Her wardrobe often feels timeless rather than trendy. When she enters a room, people might describe her as graceful, mysterious, poetic. Her color palette may include black, burgundy, plum, deep emerald, dusty rose, ivory. And if you've ever looked at a dress and thought, I want to feel like the heroine of a Gothic novel, you may be a dark romantic. The second archetype is the Gothic Academic. This woman loves knowledge almost as much as aesthetics. Her style is inspired by old libraries, vintage universities, handwritten letters, and intellectual pursuits. Think tailored trousers, structured blazers, turtlenecks, pleated skirts, satchels, fountain pens, and dark academia influences. Her colors often include black, brown, charcoal, oxblood, forest green, and cream. She wants to look intelligent, capable, and intriguing. Her style says, probably own too many books, and I'm perfectly fine with that. The third archetype is the forest witch. The forest witch feels the most connected to nature. She loves glossy greens, weathered textures, natural fibers, botanical motifs, and earthly fragrances. Her clothing often feels organic and slightly untamed. She may collect crystals, forage for mushrooms, garden, hike, or simply dream of living in a country cottage surrounded by trees. Her style says, I belong to the forest, but I still appreciate a pair of beautiful boots. The forest witch often favors comfort, movement, and connecting to the natural world. The fourth archetype is the velvet vampire, one of my personal favorites. The archetype embraces drama, luxury, seduction. She loves rich fabrics, dramatic silhouettes, ornate jewelry, dark lipsticks, and a strong visual presence. Her style is less about blending in and more about commanding attention. She enjoys fashion that feels theatrical, unapologetic, over the top. The velvet vampire understands that clothing can create an experience. Her style says, I have arrived. The fifth archetype is the Haunted Heiress. This archetype is refined, elegant, slightly melancholic. Imagine antique portraits, candlelit estates, inherited jewelry, black lace gloves, faded love letters. The Haunted Heiress appreciates beauty that feels historic and meaningful. She often prefers quality over quantity and treasured pieces with stories that are attached to them. The voices of the past speak to her. Her style is subtle rather than loud. She doesn't need attention because her presence naturally draws it. Now here's something important. Most women are not 2 or 3, myself included. You might be primarily a dark romantic with strong forest witch influences. You might be a Gothic academic who occasionally leans into velvet vampire energy. You might be a haunted heiress during the winter and a forest witch during the summer. Archetypes are not boxes. They're not cages. They're tools for understanding yourself. The goal isn't to limit your creativity. The goal is to identify patterns. When you begin noticing those patterns, shopping becomes easier, less impulsive. Building outfits becomes simpler. Creating a cohesive wardrobe becomes easier when you know what you're trying to achieve. And instead of buying random pieces that look interesting in the moment, you begin to collect pieces that belong to the same visual story. And this is where your personal style starts to emerge. Many women spend years trying to discover their style by looking outward. They ask, what's trending? They ask, what are the influencers wearing? They ask, what should they buy? But style often develops when you start looking inward instead of outward. Ask yourself, what stories am I drawn to? What movies inspire me? What books feel like home? What colors make me feel the most like myself? What aesthetic themes keep appearing throughout my life? The answers to those questions often reveal more about your style than any trend forecast ever could. The most memorable women rarely have the largest wardrobes. They have the clearest sense of identity, which allows them to pick meaningful pieces that support their story. Their clothing feels authentic because it reflects who they already are. That's why discovering your archetype can be so powerful. It helps transform fashion from consumption into self-expression. And when your wardrobe reflects your identity, getting dressed stops feeling like a chore. It becomes a ritual, a reminder, a declaration, a way of saying without speaking a word that this is who I am. It's communication. So tell me in the comments, which archetype sounds most like you? Are you a dark romantic, a Gothic academic, a forest witch, a velvet vampire, a haunted heiress, or a blend of several? Because the most beautiful style isn't the one that gets the most attention. It's the one that feels like home.